we often struggle with the question of tzaddik v'ralo, of why it is that God acts in mysterious ways and often allows the righteous to suffer. It's troubling. It's a little bit less struggling to us why it is that sometimes God gives us more than we deserve. Parshas Behar and Bechokotai focus a lot on God's justice, mostly in Bechokotai, but even Behar, we're introduced to the mitzvah of Shemitah, where God says, leave your land fallow for a full year every 7 years, which is essentially suicide for a farmer. And the Torah says, don't worry. If you'll follow my mitzvot, I'll make sure that you have more than you need, because I will cause the land to prosper and flourish 3 times in the 6th year. Parshas Bechokotai in the Tochacha focuses on God's justice with a lot of conditional statements. Im Bechokotai telechu, if you follow my mitzvos, if you do what I want, I will give you everything that you want. If you don't follow what I want, then I will deal with you just like you dealt with me. If you rejected me, I will also reject you. I will withhold that which you want from me if you withhold that which I want and I ask of you to do. And of course, we have a very long description of all the things that will happen if we fail to do that which God says. And this theme of justice and of the conditional relationship we have with God pervades much of the Torah and is the focus of the paragraph V'hayayim Shamoa in the Shema, where we say, again, if you follow the mitzvos, if we follow the mitzvos, God will give us rain, He will give us prosperity. If we don't, He will withhold the rain, and He will give us exile. But there's one statement in the Parsha which is non-conditional, and that is at the very end of the lengthy Tochacha. God says to us that even if He has to carry out all of the punishments that He has to do because of our sins, in the very end, God will remember the covenant. V'zacharti lahem beris rishonim asher hotzetzi osam me'eretz Mitzrayim le'nei hagoyim lios lahem le'elokim. That God says, ultimately, even if I have to carry out every single one of these punishments, in the end, I will not forsake you and I will bring you back. And that is not a conditional statement. It does not say if we do anything, but it's a unilateral promise that God commits to us. Why does He commit? Unclear if we will necessarily deserve it, but we're committed to it because of the relationship that we have from the very dawn of our relationship with God. And this point is the ending of many prophecies of the Navi. Whenever the Navi tells us what God might do to punish us, there's always an acham at the end. There's always a hope, there's always a positive optimism and a guarantee that we will not be completely forgotten no matter what. And I think that this point, as we said, why do the righteous suffer? We don't always know God's ways, and we don't always understand His calculations. But we do know that God believes in a justice. God believes that no one should suffer if they don't deserve it, because suffering is always associated with a cause in the Torah. That God always is more generous and less precise when it comes to blessings than He is with curses and with punishments. And we don't always need to deserve the good things that we get. That sometimes it could be just the gift that God gives because of our relationship with Him. And I think that that's also part of what we think about on Lag BaOmer, that even in the lowest of our times, even when mourning for most tragic circumstances, and the students of Rabbi Akiva, there's always a hope for the future that Rabbi Akiva taught us, that you could start over and God will maintain the tradition, He will maintain His relationship with us as a whole, and there will always be an optimistic viewpoint for the future. And I think that this is something that we can also learn from, because we also think about relationships with other people and the justice and the fairness of everything that we do or receive. And what the Torah is saying is that someone should only be punished if they deserve it, but someone could be worthy of our blessings even if they don't deserve it. And we should think about ways that we could be generous with ourselves and with our time and with acts that we do for members of our family or our friends or our community. And think about, they don't necessarily deserve it, but our relationship is so important and is so long-standing that this is what we need to do, and this is what we can do to enhance those relationships. As God says, Zacharti lahem beris rishonim. We go so far back, and we want to continue this relationship, and therefore I will always be there for my people no matter what. And we hope also that in our current challenges and crisis, and we don't really know where the happy ending is going to come from, we should be optimistic and hopeful that God will always produce a solution in the end, and we will be able to therefore soon as possible, be able to return together in good health. And I'd like to wish everyone a good Shabbos.